I'm going to ring the bell, and then we can say the refuge prayer. Do you have these? Okay. So we'll say the refuge prayer 3 times. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until fully awakened through the power of generosity, ethics, patience, enthusiastic effort, concentration, and wisdom. For the sake of all beings, may we realize and demonstrate our innate goodness. Hi, I'm Daniel. I had this idea that I wanted to give a talk here, and I thought about it for a while, and then I just thought, well, I'll just ask. And the answer was, why not? I think that why not is a very powerful answer to questions, and I think more often we should say why not to things instead of just saying no for no reason, which I think we do a lot of the time. So anyway, I asked if I could give this talk, and the answer was why not, and I thought, all right, well, I probably got time to think about it. It's certainly not going to be soon that they'll ask me to do it, and then 6 days ago, Matt asked me to come do it, so I thought, oh, well, I guess it's urgent then. So the title of my talk is Everything I Need to Know I Learned from the Rolling Stones. And I think people are going to wonder, if they are familiar with 50-year-old music, people are going to wonder if there are a lot of Buddhist themes in the Rolling Stones. And I have a few things to say about it. I'm in Buddhist Facebook groups with people I don't know, and I don't recommend that. It's not a good use of my time. But in one of those, I saw a post, and someone said, I've been studying Buddhism for many years, and everything I've learned can be summed up in one Rolling Stones song. And I thought, oh, that could be a talk idea. Way to bring in things people can relate to, 50-year-old music. But I think it's very popular music, and I think people do remember it today. So the guy that posted that, he had a very specific song he was going to try to make people think of, and it's not the song that came to my mind, but it is this. It's You Can't Always Get What You Want. And everybody that read this post thought of that song immediately, except for me. That's not what I thought of. But I think it's about our attachment to things, and I think it's about heartbreak too. I believe he's in a wedding. He's at a wedding, and he's in love with the bride, but it's not his wedding, so he has to be very sad. But I think we fixate on the things we want a lot. And so, yeah, that's going to distract me. So that is a very Buddhist message too, because we fixate on the things we want. If you have kids like me, then you know that sometimes your kids ask for things, and sometimes when you tell them no, they just flip out. They just don't know how to handle it because they fixate so hard. So last night, my daughter really wanted me to take her to Culver's. She's 11. And she said, Dad, can we go to Culver's? And I said, no. And then she was pouting the whole drive home, which is almost an hour. She was pouting the whole drive home. And it's just because she fixated so much on that thing she wanted to go to. And I think that as adults, we fixate on that too. We don't always get what we want, of course. I think we all know that. But at the same time, life goes on. So I really wanted a certain promotion at work, and I got passed over for the promotion, but that was okay. I was still going to my job, and later on I got a different promotion, so it was really okay. And I'm thinking back 2 years ago, I got divorced, and it was one of those divorces that's really hard, and it was really hard on me, but I got through it. It wasn't really what I wanted. Well, so there's a really bad joke about divorces, and I'm going to tell it to you. It's, why is divorce so expensive? Because it's worth it. So in that sense, and I've been divorced, so I can say that. So in that sense, I mean, it was what I wanted, but that wasn't what I wanted for a marriage, to have a painful divorce. It's not what anyone wants. So, but I'm okay. I made it through, right? And I think constantly in life we don't get what we want. And that's okay, because the truth is that we're all really okay. So now I'm going to talk about the song I actually thought of. That was the song everyone but me in the group immediately thought of when this poster said, all of Buddhism can be summed up in a Rolling Stones song. They thought of, you can't always get what you want. But I thought of a different song. And that is this one. It's called Sympathy for the Devil. And it's literally about the devil. Satan is the narrator, and he tells a story about how he has tried to make the world a worse place throughout history. And so we might be thinking, there's not a Buddhist message there, but that's okay because I found one. But briefly, I know one piece of trivia about the song that I'm going to share with you. And I fact-checked it. I looked on Wikipedia, so it is true. Towards the end of the song, he says, I shouted out, who killed the Kennedys? And when the song was written, the line was, I shouted out, who killed Kennedy? And between when it was written and when it was recorded, Bobby Kennedy was shot and killed. That's spooky, right? So the song was changed to, who killed the Kennedys? And obviously, there's nothing Buddhist about that, but I think it's really fascinating. So towards the end of the song, he says, just as every cop is a criminal and all the sinners are saints. And I think that tells us something about duality, especially how we put people in categories in our heads. And a lot of times that doesn't really work. But more than that, there's a line that really means a lot to me. And I'm trying to talk long enough to get there so you can hear it in the song. And we'll see if we make it. But it is, I watched with glee while your kings and queens fought for 10 decades for the gods they made. I watched with glee while your kings and queens fought for 10 decades for the gods they made. And so when I think of that, it's going to distract me too. So when I think of that for the gods they made, I think that Mick Jagger, when he wrote the song, he wasn't thinking what I'm thinking. He was thinking they made up gods and they're killing each other for them, I think. But the thing about music is I can take whatever meaning I want and it's still meaningful, because that's what's so cool about music, I think. So when I hear, I watched with glee while your kings and queens fought for 10 decades for the gods they made, I relate it to us. And I think of, we are the kings and queens, and we make gods, and we fight over them. And by that I don't mean gods as in religion, I mean that we attach incredible importance to things that aren't always important. So I'm going to give some examples of this and talk about them for a while, and then we'll see if we can together kind of think of some more, and hopefully, otherwise we're going to have a really long meditation today. So So a big god that we make is one we all make together, and that is money. I saw a picture of a dollar bill, and somebody had written in pen on it, I'm a piece of paper and I control your whole life. And I think that's true, right? Money is just paper that we're exchanging for goods and services. Or more often now, it's just numbers in a computer that we move to another computer. And it only has meaning that we give it, but since we've all decided to give it meaning, it has that. But deeper than that, I think labels are the gods we make. And I'm going to talk about the labels we put on people specifically. So we will put labels on other people, and we will say that person is not like me, therefore they're bad. Or that person doesn't think the way I do, therefore they're bad. I think people say this is a really divisive time in history. I will leave it to older people than me to say if it's always been this way or not. I tend to think it's always been, that everyone thinks this is the most divided time in history. So I don't know, but I know that we sure do label the people that don't think the same way we do. And I think we're all guilty of that. And we think that person is not like me. But really the truth is that that person is like you. We all are suffering. We're all in some sorrow. We're all suffering. We're all struggling with impermanence. We're all watching people we care about grow old and die. We're growing old. I have gray in my beard and I can't run as fast as I used to, so I know impermanence all the time. And you would think that that would make us be kind to each other, but a lot of times we aren't kind to each other. We look for reasons to not like each other sometimes even. I'm going to quote the poet Charles Bukowski said, "We're all going to die, all of us. What a circus." You would think that would make us love each other, but it doesn't. We're flattened by trivialities, and we're eaten up by nothing. And I think that is a really powerful quote, and it has a lot of meaning, that we just make enemies out of other people. We look for more things to disagree with sometimes, and things like social media really don't help with that either. And now we can watch news that will only tell us things we agree with, and that is really poisonous too. But I also want to talk about the labels that we put on ourselves. So I can label myself and say, I've had 2 divorces, therefore I'm bad at relationships. Maybe I am and maybe I'm not. I hope I'm not. But the worst thing is that if I have that label in my head and then I make it true, that is really terrifying, that I could cling to that label. And we can tell ourselves how different we are from others, but really we're not. And I can put labels on myself like I'm a liberal, or I try to be a good dad, or any of those things, but the truth is that we're more than the labels we put on ourselves. You aren't your past or your job or any of the labels you put on yourselves, and these are just gods we've made. And what we do and how we engage the world springs out of who we think we are. And we aren't our baggage and our feelings, and we don't have to live as though we are those things, because we are not. We're, at our core, we're basic goodness. We're just Buddha nature, and even the thoughts that come through our head are just coming through. They're nothing to cling to, and they're going to come and they're going to go. And I think that we forget how much power we have over our lives if we can just put down the things we think about ourselves and be with what is. So I'd like to open it up and hear what other people have to say about gods we've made. If anyone has any examples other than the ones I came up with, which was money and labels, what are some other gods we've made?